The thing is, I always believed a woman should be allowed to keep parts of herself untouched. Of course, that sounds cleaner before anyone asks what those parts are. 2 basil plants, 1 lemon tree, a Saturday morning that smelled like wet soil and eucalyptus. I was standing at the checkout counter at Oakfield, the plant nursery with chipped terracotta pots stacked under the window, watching a cashier scan seed packets I did not need. My brass house key tapped against the blue enamel keychain every time I moved my wallet. I remember that sound better than I remember what sweater I wore that day, which is strange because the sweater shows up in 3 later photos. My name is Zofia Marek. I was 35, a senior brand strategist at a boutique PR agency, and I knew how to make messy things sound calm. Clients came to me when their names were attached to bad headlines. I gave them better words, softer words, words that moved blame into the background. I thought that made me honest, in a professional way. Noah came back from the outdoor aisle carrying a bag of potting soil against his hip like it weighed nothing. He was my husband. 7 years together, 3 married. He had dirt on one sleeve and a small crease between his eyebrows because he had compared 3 kinds of rosemary and still did not trust any of them. There had been good things. That matters, even now. On Fridays, when I worked late during campaign launches, he used to wait outside my office with cheap ramen and a paper bag of groceries because I forgot to eat. He never made a speech out of it. He just stood by the parking lane under the bad office light and handed me food like feeding me was a fact. At the nursery, he asked, in his soft, careful way, what had changed between us. He asked while loading soil into the boot, not while looking at my face. That was Noah. He could fix the hinge on the laundry door before breakfast, but could not put his hurt in the center of a sentence. I told him nothing had changed, of course. What I heard was that he wanted an audit. What he meant was that he missed me. My phone buzzed. Tessa had sent a message saying married people buying herbs looked like applying for citizenship in old age. I laughed too hard. Noah closed the boot and looked at the lemon tree between us. 2 bags of soil. 1 small tree. No answer that meant anything. On the drive home, his hand rested near the gear shift, close enough for me to take. I did not. He did not move it away. The hotel bar had amber lights that made everyone look softer than they were. The thing is, soft lighting is dangerous when you already want another version of your life. Of course, I told myself it was only a client event. 2 texts from Noah. 1 drink I had not ordered. No clean reason to leave. The week after the nursery, work gave me a place to put all the restless parts of myself. Bellwether House had hired our agency after a public mistake with one of their board members, and I spent 3 days in the glass conference room building apology language that sounded like responsibility without making anyone bleed money. Elise sat across from me during those meetings, eating wasabi peas from a paper cup and marking my drafts with a green pen. She was 39, sharp without being cruel, and she knew the difference between a client narrative and a lie. That detail mattered later, but not yet. Adrian came back into my life through the campaign. He was not part of my office. He was an old university friend who now worked in donor relations for one of the arts groups tied to Bellwether. He had dark hair, clean cuffs, and the kind of attention that arrived fast. When I spoke, he answered the exact sentence, not the one he thought I should have said. Noah did not do that anymore. Noah listened while loading the dishwasher, while checking the gas bill, while replacing filters. He did care. The thing is, care can become hard to see when it always wears work clothes. Adrian told me after one meeting that I looked like myself again. He said it lightly, indirectly, while holding the lift door with his shoulder because his hands were full of folders. I remember the lift smelled like printer toner and someone's orange peel. I do not remember what I said back. I remember smoothing my hair after he walked away. That night, the client dinner ended at 9:30, and people moved to the hotel bar because nobody in PR knows how to let an event die on time. Noah texted to ask whether I was heading home. I looked at the message while Adrian leaned close to hear me over the music. Then I typed that the event was still dragging. It was not exactly false. That was my first defense. It was not exactly true. That was the part I stepped around. Adrian asked if Noah minded late nights. I told him Noah minded anything he could not categorize. Adrian smiled like he understood me better than my own house did. What he really understood was how to make himself feel like escape. Around 11:40, Elise walked through the side corridor and saw us leaving by the service doors. She did not say anything. She had been the woman who knew too much once before, during a colleague's breakup, and it had cost her every lunch table for 6 months. She looked at me, then at Adrian, then at the exit sign buzzing above us. After that, she kept walking. I should have gone home alone. Instead, I stood on the pavement with Adrian while a rideshare driver circled the block twice. He said we could keep talking at the lobby cafe across the street. I said that would look worse than it was. He said maybe I cared too much about looking good. The thing is, that sounded like a challenge to the part of me that hated being called careful. My mother had been careful. She had kept every receipt, every birthday card, every church bulletin from before my father left, with the choir woman who wore red lipstick on Sundays. After he left, my mother said she had been too loyal to be wanted. She said it while folding towels. She said it while making soup. She said it until loyalty sounded like a disease. So I stayed outside with Adrian for 12 more minutes. Nothing dramatic happened. He brushed lint from my sleeve, and I let him. That was enough. At home, Noah was awake at the dining table with his laptop open, a mug beside him, and the lemon tree still in its plastic nursery pot by the back door. He asked how late the client dinner went. I told him people kept talking. He asked, very specific and factual, why Elise had mentioned drinks after midnight when I had said the night was over. He was not loud. That made it worse for me, not better. I heard suspicion. He was asking for sequence. Those were not the same thing, but I made them the same because then I could be offended instead of careful. I told him he was building a case because he could not stand that I had a life outside him. He closed the laptop halfway. The room did not get louder. It got smaller. He asked what happened after the dinner. I told him nothing happened that was worth this tone. That was an answer shaped like a door. The next morning, Tessa came over before work with iced coffee and her divorce grin, the one she used when she wanted to make sadness look expensive. She told me men called things boundaries when women stopped orbiting them. She said Noah was dependable, sure, but dependable could become a padded room if I let it. I laughed because Tessa had known me before marriage. She had seen me at 19, dancing on bar tables and turning in essays late because professors forgave women who looked bright and impossible. She liked that version of me. So did I. When she asked if Adrian was handsome, I told her he was attentive. She rolled her eyes and said attentive was how grown women said handsome when they wanted to keep moral high ground. I told her not to make it cheap. She said I was the one making it complicated. That exchange changed something. Before Tessa, Adrian had been a private thrill I could still put back in a drawer. After Tessa laughed, he became evidence that I was still someone who could be wanted outside the grocery list. By Thursday, Maya had called Noah twice. Noah took both calls in the garden near the lemon tree. Elise stopped talking when I entered the break room. She had a spoon in a yogurt cup, held still halfway to her mouth. 2 calls. 1 quiet co-worker. A story beginning to leave my hands. Riverside Arts always smelled like white wine, floor polish, and lilies that had been bought too early. The thing is, public rooms are easier than private rooms because everyone agrees to perform. Of course, I believe that made them safer. 2 donors near the stairs. 1 photographer by the branded wall. Noah standing where I had asked him to stand. The fundraiser was technically work. That was how I sold it at home. Bellwether had donated to the Arts Centre. Our agency had helped manage the apology campaign. And I needed to be seen there. Noah came because I asked him, and because showing up was his language. He wore the navy suit I liked, the one with the cuff I had once repaired with hotel sewing kit thread during a wedding weekend. On the drive there, he asked if Adrian would be there. calm, specific, not accusing. I said maybe, because donor circles overlapped. What I left out was that I had sent Adrian the ticket link myself. What I heard in Noah's question was ownership. What he meant was preparation. Maya was already inside when we arrived. She hugged Noah first, then me, and her arms around me had the exact firmness of someone completing a duty. She had never liked being fake. That was one reason I used to respect her. Tessa arrived late in a silver jacket and kissed the air near both my cheeks. She told me I looked expensive and dangerous. I said of course, because what else was the point of getting dressed? She laughed, and for a while it felt like the night belonged to me. Then Adrian appeared near the donor board with a glass of mineral water and no surprise on his face. He said he had not known whether I would come. That was not true, but it was socially smooth. Noah heard it. Maya heard it. Elise, standing near the coat check with a program folded in half, heard it too. The first hour passed in small cuts. Adrian asked about my speech draft for Bellwether. Noah asked if I wanted another drink. Adrian remembered I hated Sauvignon Blanc. Noah remembered I had not eaten. The thing is, I treated one kind of remembering as desire and the other as maintenance. That was not fair. I know the difference now. I did not use the difference then. At the photo wall, the lights were too bright, and a young photographer with acne along his jaw kept waving people into place. A vinyl banner behind us read, "Riverside Arts Spring Patrons Night." Someone had put gold dots on the floor to show where shoes should stand. Adrian stepped beside me. Too close. His sleeve brushed mine, and I did not move away. Noah's hand tightened around his glass. It was small, not a scene. Just knuckles going pale for half a second. I could have shifted then. 1 inch would have told the room I knew my husband was there. Instead, I smiled wider because the camera was up, and because Tessa was watching, and because some ugly part of me wanted Noah to show his hurt so I could call it control. The photographer asked if we were ready. Maya said from beside Noah that maybe spouses should be in the picture. She said it lightly, but her eyes were on me. I answered before Noah could. I said Noah was acting like a man who thought marriage meant ownership. I said he was welcome to stand in the picture if he could do it without making insecurity the theme of the night. No one gasped. Real humiliation rarely makes a clean sound. The donor closest to us looked down into her wine. Elise turned her program over and over in her hands. Tessa gave one laugh, bright and reflexive, then stopped when she saw Noah's face. What I heard from myself was honesty. What the room heard was a wife making her husband small in public. Noah did not raise his voice. He did not ask for the glass back when I took it from his hand and set it on a high table. He looked at Adrian, then at me, then at the photographer. Adrian smiled in a way that was not quite a smile. He had begun to understand that being near me in private felt different from being named near me in public. I pulled Adrian into the frame. The flash went off. My face looked bright in the tagged story later. Adrian's hand rested just behind my waist, not touching, close enough for people to fill in the rest. Noah stood outside the branded backdrop, half in the edge of the photo, like a man cropped by accident. Then I made it worse. I had left my wrap in Noah's car, and the valet ticket was in Noah's jacket. I told Adrian to get it. Noah said he would go. I said not to be difficult. Then I gave Adrian the brass house key on the blue enamel keychain because the car key was attached to it, and I said it was only a key. The key landed in Adrian's palm with a small metal sound. I remember that perfectly. I cannot remember the name of the donor beside me, though she later sent an email to Elise asking whether everything was okay. Noah watched Adrian walk away with our house key. When Adrian came back, Noah held out his hand. Adrian placed the keychain in it. Noah took the key back and put it in his jacket pocket. He thanked the photographer as if nothing had broken. His voice did not change. His hand shook once so slightly that only Maya and I saw it. After the photo wall, Noah asked if we could speak near the side hall. His quiet debrief came without accusation. He asked whether I understood what it had looked like when I handed Adrian access to our life in front of people who mattered to us. I said he was making a symbol out of a practical errand. He said it had stopped being practical when I chose Adrian after Maya gave me a way not to. That sentence should have opened something. It did not. I heard his words as a claim that his sister had authority over my marriage. I told him I would not be managed by a family committee. He folded his napkin once, then again, though we were not at dinner. That was Noah under pressure. Give his hands a job, give his voice less. Maya came over and said she was taking him home if he wanted. Noah said he would get his own ride. Tessa joined me near the bar and started to say something about men and public moods. Her mouth opened, then closed. She had seen the shake in his hand, too. The tagged story went up before the fundraiser ended. A gold backdrop. My face turned toward Adrian. Noah at the edge. The blue enamel keychain visible in Adrian's hand in one frame because the photographer had taken a candid between poses. By the time I saw it, 3 people had already reacted with the small grey eyes that means someone has watched but not approved. Elise did not say goodnight when she left. Maya walked out with Noah's coat over her arm because he had forgotten it on a chair. 2 exits. 1 photo. No way to put the key back into an ordinary day. The house smelled like reheated soup and lemon leaves that had started to curl at the tips. The thing is, homes do not become strange all at once. Of course, I told myself the silence was temporary. 2 bowls on the counter. 1 coat still over a chair. Noah in the guest room before dinner. Maya came on Sunday with a container of soup and a face she had not worn around me before. She did not come in with anger. That would have helped me. Anger gives you a surface to push against. She came in tired, which made her harder to dismiss. She handed the soup to Noah first, then set a loaf of bread on the counter. The plastic bag had a bakery sticker crooked across it. I remember it said cranberry walnut, which none of us liked much. I cannot tell you what I said when she arrived. I only remember the bread because it sat there untouched for 2 days. Maya said Noah looked humiliated at the fundraiser. She said it plainly, while Noah was rinsing spoons at the sink, even though we had not eaten yet. I told her Noah was allowed to feel hurt, but he was not allowed to control who I kept in my life. Calm words. Good words. They sounded like something I might approve for a client who needed to look reasonable after behaving badly. Maya asked if I understood the difference between a friend and a scene. That was her calm question, tied to one named night. I heard her saying I was cheap. She was asking why I had made my husband stand outside his own marriage in front of everyone. I told her she had always treated Noah like a child who needed translating. That was not entirely false. Maya had protected him since their father died, and sometimes she made his pain too neat. But I used that truth like a knife and watched her step back from me. Noah asked Maya to leave us for a minute. She did, but she did not go far. Through the window, I could see her sitting in her car with both hands on the steering wheel, engine off. Noah stood in the dining room, near the lemon tree we still had not repotted. He said he did not know where to stand in his own marriage anymore. The sentence was not polished. It came out slow, like he had carried it upstairs and downstairs, and finally set it on the table. A better woman might have heard grief. I heard pressure. My mother had used grief like weather, filling rooms until everyone moved around her. She cried over bills, over soup, over empty chairs at church. Her sadness made people guilty even when they had done nothing. So when Noah sounded sad, I treated it like a net being thrown. I offered him my compromise. I said I would stop bringing Adrian around him. I said I would not embarrass him again in public. I said I could respect the marriage without cutting off someone who made me feel alive. The thing is, I thought that sounded generous. Noah looked at the lemon tree. 1 curled leaf had fallen onto the saucer. He said it was not 1 drink, 1 picture, or 1 friend. He said it was the way I kept making him prove he was not controlling before he was allowed to be hurt. That was the pattern, and he named it. Not loud, not with victory. He sounded like someone reading a list he wished were shorter. I answered with a controlled partial truth. I said I had been lonely. I said I had been lonely for months. I said he had made a life of repairs and accounts and quiet acts. And somehow I had become another thing he maintained. He did not deny it. That should have slowed me down. Instead, I moved faster because his silence left me too much room. He said he knew he had been absent in ways that did not show on a calendar. He said his father's stroke scare had pulled him into practical mode and he had stayed there too long. He also said none of that explained me handing another man our key. The word "our" stayed in the room. A delivery driver rang the bell then, because timing in real life has no respect for collapse. Noah went to the door and came back with a box of printer paper I had ordered for work and forgotten about. For a minute he stood there holding office supplies while our marriage waited behind him. It made the whole scene look smaller and worse. Later, after Maya left, after the soup went cold, after I answered 2 work emails I did not need to answer, I found Noah in the guest room. He was folding the old picnic blanket from our first anniversary. It was grey wool with a red stripe, the one we had used under the bridge near Lark Street when it rained and the strawberries tasted like tap water. He folded one corner, then the other. His hands moved carefully, smoothing the fabric flat before each turn. He did not know I was watching at first. There was no performance in it. No message. Not really. Just a man putting away a memory because he did not know where else to put it. The door in me opened for a few seconds. I saw him under that bridge, damp hair stuck to his forehead, laughing because the bakery bag had split and the strawberries had rolled toward a puddle. I saw him outside my office with ramen. I saw him at the fundraiser half outside the picture, still wearing the suit I liked because I had asked. His boundary was not a cage in that moment. It looked like the last fence around something both of us had already stepped on. My hand went to the doorframe. I could have said his name. I could have asked him to sit with me before pride found its shoes again. Instead, my phone was in my hand. I texted Adrian that I could not keep apologizing for wanting to feel alive. The message sent with a quiet tick. Door closed. That night, Noah came downstairs after midnight. I was in the kitchen, cleaning out the refrigerator because standing still made my skin too tight. He took the brass house key from the blue enamel keychain in the dish by the door. He did not hide it. He did not announce it. He slid the key off the ring and set the empty enamel loop back in the dish. I told myself he was being dramatic. Of course I did. I told myself anyone who removed a key wanted me to notice. But he did not look to see if I had. 2 shelves wiped. 1 empty ring. The sound of the guest room door closing inside the walls. Thursday night had the flat smell of dishwasher steam and rain on pavement. The thing is, people think the point of no return arrives dressed as chaos. Of course, mine arrived with Adrian holding his coat and Noah still carrying a grocery bag. 3 messages to Tessa. 1 red receipt. No rescue. I invited Adrian to the house because I was tired of behaving like he belonged in parking lots and hotel bars. That was the reason I gave myself. The deeper reason was uglier and easier. I wanted Noah to stop making me feel like my choices only existed when I hid them. Before Adrian came, I moved the lemon tree from the back door to the dining room window. Some of the leaves had yellowed. I watered it anyway, too much, until water gathered in the saucer. My hands smelled like damp soil, like the nursery, like the morning when Noah had asked what changed between us, and I had given him nothing. Priya saw Adrian park outside. I knew because her blinds moved. Priya had once sat at our table every other Friday with cheap wine and stories about her own divorce. She had stopped coming after the fundraiser. Now the blind lifted 2 inches, then lowered with care. Adrian arrived at 7:20, though he had said 7. He carried no wine, no flowers, no object that would make him look like a guest. Just his coat over one arm and his phone in his hand. He asked if Noah was home. I said not yet. He checked the dark hallway behind me before stepping inside. That should have told me something about his courage. I called it caution. Tessa had texted earlier that I was brave for refusing to let marriage become a small room. She had added a flame emoji, then nothing for 4 hours. I kept the message open on the kitchen counter like it was a witness. Adrian stood by the dining room doorway. He did not sit. He said maybe this was not the best place. I told him places only became wrong when people agreed to be ashamed of them. The thing is, I was speaking to Noah before Noah was even home. The front door opened at 7:40. Noah came in with a grocery bag from Hart's Market and rain on his shoulders. He saw Adrian. Then he saw the lemon tree in the window. Then he put the bag down on the floor instead of the counter. A carton of eggs slipped sideways inside the bag. One cracked. I remember the thin yellow line spreading into the paper because nobody moved to pick it up. Noah asked what Adrian was doing in our house. His voice was low, specific, clean. I said Adrian was there because I would not keep pretending he was shameful. Noah asked if I had brought him there to talk or to prove something. I said both could be true. Adrian said he should go, not because he suddenly respected the marriage, because he had started counting risk. His phone was still in his hand. His thumb kept waking the screen. Noah told him to stay for 1 minute since he had been invited into a conversation he should hear. That was not Noah's usual way. He had stopped avoiding the center. I crossed the line myself. No impulse. No accident. I said I would not end the arrangement with Adrian, even if Noah wanted a divorce. The word sounded too large for the dining room. It sat between the lemon tree and the cracked egg and the grocery bag on the floor. Noah asked if I understood what I had just made clear. I told him I understood perfectly. That was another lie. I understood the sentence. I did not understand its weight. Then I gave him the one true thing I had been carrying. I told him he had built a life where I had to schedule loneliness like an appointment. He did not answer right away. He could not refute it. We both knew that. There had been nights when I sat at the dining table while he balanced accounts for his father, and he touched my shoulder on the way past like I was a lamp he did not want to knock over. There had been mornings when I dressed for presentations, and he said the traffic would be bad instead of saying I looked good. There had been an award dinner he missed because his father had a minor stroke scare, and yes, family mattered, but the empty chair beside me had mattered too. Noah looked at me then with no defense ready. That should have been mercy. I used it as proof that I had won. He said indirectly that if I ended it now and if we both told the truth about what the marriage had become, he would sit down with me for a real conversation. Not tonight maybe, but soon. He said he did not want a performance from me. He wanted one clean choice. There it was, his final offer. No begging, no repeated plea. I heard a trap. What he meant was that the door still had a hinge. What I heard was that he wanted me to crawl through it. I said I was done shrinking myself to fit inside his fear. I said he did not get to call his insecurity a boundary and then hand me a script for being a good wife. I said if he needed a woman who made him feel unchallenged, he had married wrong. Adrian looked at the floor. That was the first moment I understood he had no interest in being chosen inside a room where choice had consequences. He liked being wanted. He did not like being evidence. Noah picked up the grocery bag and set it on the counter. One egg had broken against the cardboard. He took out the bread, the milk, the spinach. He placed each item down with care. Then he told Adrian to leave. Adrian said he did not want to be in the middle of this. Noah said he had been standing in the middle of it since the fundraiser photo. That exchange changed the air. Adrian's face closed. He touched his coat sleeve, checked his phone again, and said he would step out. Not leave me. Step out. The cowardice was small enough to pass as manners. After the door shut behind him, Noah said he would handle things properly. No legal words, no threats. Nothing I could quote later as cruelty. That made me louder. I told him proper was his favourite disguise. Proper let him avoid feeling anything messy. Proper was how he missed dinners, buried grief in spreadsheets, and made me sound unstable for needing more than a repaired hinge and paid bills. He let me finish. His quiet had changed since S1. Back then it was avoidance. Now it was a wall with a locked gate. I went upstairs because the dining room had become too still. In the hallway, I messaged Tessa. I told her he had said the word divorce without saying it. I told her Adrian had come over and Noah was acting like I had burned the house down. I told her to call me. 3 messages. 1 red receipt. No reply. The absence was not dramatic. The phone just stayed flat in my palm, warm from my hand, with her silence sitting there like another person. Downstairs, Noah moved through the house with a practical calm that made my voice feel foolish even to me. A drawer opened. A cabinet closed. His footsteps crossed from the dining room to the study. I heard paper slide against paper, then the scanner hum. He was not shouting. He was gathering. I came down and asked if he was making records now. He said he was making sure memory did not have to do all the work. I told him that was exactly what I meant, that he turned feelings into files. He said files did not start this. The wrong response would have been anger. I had prepared for anger. I had not prepared for a man who no longer wanted to convince me. Adrian texted once from outside. He said this had become more complicated than either of us meant it to be. More complicated. As if complication had slipped under the door while he was politely waiting by the dining room. By morning, every shared password had been changed. The streaming account, the grocery app, the house alarm code, the shared photo folder. Small things. Practical things. Marriage reduced to access points. 2 dead passwords. 1 guest room door. No speech louder than the scanner. Crestline Bank smelled like toner, carpet cleaner, and the peppermint bowl Graham Vale kept near the pens. The thing is, I went there expecting a conversation about a joint account hold. Of course, I wore my best cream blouse for control. 2 chairs, 1 folder. No one there to take my side. The private consultation room had a glass wall with frosted stripes across the middle. Graham sat with his hands folded. Maya sat near the end of the table, not beside me. She had a small notebook open, but she was not writing. Her face looked tired in the same way it had when she brought cranberry walnut bread to our house. A woman in a navy coat entered after Graham checked his watch. She asked for Zofia Marek. I said that was me. She handed me an envelope and asked me to confirm receipt. My fingers left a half-moon mark in the paper when I signed. Inside was a petition for dissolution of marriage with temporary financial and property orders. The first hearing was listed for May 28th at 9 a.m. in County Family Court. I pressed one palm flat against the folder, then slid it back as if the paper had heat in it. Maya looked down at the table. Graham turned one page toward me and said the temporary account listed on page 3 was active in my name only, and the joint home equity line would remain frozen pending the hearing. That was true. Not kind. Not cruel. The attachments were not surprises. The fundraiser photo with Adrian near my waist. The tagged location story. A note about the house key visible in his hand. Priya's dated statement that Adrian had been at the house the night I said I would not end it. My own message to Noah, repeated in plain text, saying even divorce would not make me stop. No new evidence. Just my choices, organised better than I had organised my defence. Before the bank meeting ended, Adrian removed the remaining fundraiser tags, sent one message saying he could not be named in anyone's marriage, and blocked me before my reply delivered. I moved into a furnished studio above a dental office, where the refrigerator hummed louder than the street. My personal account stayed open, but the joint home equity line stayed frozen until the temporary orders hearing. Elise stopped covering for me at work, Priya stopped waving from the driveway, Maya spoke only through necessary messages, and Tessa stayed gone. Adrian kept every tag removed and told a mutual friend he had never been part of my marriage. My director took me off a crisis campaign because clients needed someone whose judgment was not currently the story. The thing is, I thought refusing to end Adrian meant no one could make me small. Of course, that sentence sounded clean because it left out the house, the ramen, the bridge, and the man who had asked for one clean choice. 2 keys, 1 empty ring. No door that answered to me. The blue enamel keychain stayed in the dish by the door, empty. The house did not lock me out. I had handed away the key,